Well, hello YouTube, Louie here. I was on the US Mint's website the other day, and I noticed that they have begun a series about Ronald Reagan calling Celebrating the Life of President Ronald Reagan, in which they have four segments of essays about him. If you'd like to learn more about this president, his early life, film and TV career, California politics, and his presidency and later life. Um, and I am a fan. He was not a perfect president, but he was a leader and somebody that I respected immensely. I'm going to go through and do some excerpts, a narrative of some excerpts from the U.S. Mint's essays. I've often thought about doing a series of essays about Reagan because I think we could learn a lot from his philosophies and his leadership, much of which is still relevant today. So, just to do a little preface, I grew up in the 60s and the 70s, and I recall in high school studying Richard Nixon and his legacy of corruption and deception. Um, and Politics was pretty much disdained. The Nixon and Agnew had just disgraced the presidency and the vice presidency, and uh, um, that was the situation in which a peanut farmer named Jimmy Carter came to power, a Democrat. Of course, Nixon was a Republican. The Carter years were very, very difficult years. His policies were reckless, in my opinion, and ruined the economy and ruined the dollar and spurred what they called, what was it, the misery index, where we had both inflation and recession at the same time. Interest rates were pushing 18%. Inflation, this is why your parents' homes all escalated in value, and why a Big Mac went from a quarter to God knows how many dollars. Inflation just took control of everything from home prices to gasoline. There was gasoline shortages. The U.S. Was not respected abroad, and terrorists were capturing our citizens. And the president was so weak that he would not act on that. He was an extreme pacifist and a genius, but a poor leader, afraid to act on the world stage. So, about this time when America was feeling completely beaten, both domestically and internationally, Ronald Reagan came to the stage. So I'm going to go into these essays and do a little bit. I'll keep it under 15 minutes. In regard to coins, there is a cool set coming up in October, the Coins and Chronicles series, and Reagan will be featured in the October release. We don't know the mintage yet, but that has been a pretty popular series and has performed well in the market. So keep an eye on that. But leading up to that, here is some information about Ronald Reagan that you may not know. His early family life. While I take inspiration from the past, like most Americans, I live for the future. 1992 speech at the Republican National Convention. Ronald Reagan achieved a prodigious legacy as president between 1981 and 1989. He oversaw a dramatic economic boom and is widely credited with hastening the end of the Cold War and reinforcing the reputation of the U.S. as a powerful protector of freedom and peace around the world. Beyond his policies, he dramatically shifted the attitude of the country. His confidence resonated with the public, inspiring Americans and letting people of the world over know that it's morning in America again. I'm going to go forward a little bit here. He was born in 1911 in a small apartment above a bank in Tampico, Illinois. The future 40th President of the United States With cherubic face and bobbed Dutch boy haircut, the young Ronald Wilson Reagan was affectionately referred to as Dutch. He had a typical Midwestern upbringing, spent his childhood in a small town Illinois, trapping muskrats, exploring the woods, and engaging in mischief with his older brother, Neil. Reagan was an enthusiastic reader who started with the newspaper at the age of 5 and continued to devour everything from the Hardy Boys to the Tarzan series. Both Reagan's parents were hardworking, values-driven, qualities they inspired onto Reagan and Neil from an early age. Here we see he played football as a high school student at Northside High School in Dixon, Illinois. Reagan immersed himself in a wide range of activities. He was passionate for football, though his height and build at the age of 15, just 5'3" and 108 pounds, prevented him from making the freshman team. Along with football, Reagan was passionate about acting. He was awarded the lead roles in several church and school plays and became president of his high school drama club. From athletic clubs to civic organizations, if there was a leadership position to be had, Reagan was an obvious choice to fill it. He was an art director of the yearbook and vice president of the YMCA. Upon graduating from high school in 1928, Reagan attended Eureka College in Illinois, where he was awarded an athletic scholarship. In addition to serving as a member of the football, swimming, and track teams at Eureka, he led cheers for his college basketball team. By the time he graduated college, Reagan's accomplishments were as numerous as they were varied. He had been elected president of the student body and the Booster Club, coached the swim team, and received several awards for acting. Those who knew Reagan or knew of him, it was clear his career was on the rise. Post-college life, in 1932, a young Reagan joined the ranks of millions of Americans struggling to find work. The Great Depression was well underway and employment opportunities were sparse. He traveled to dozens of cities looking for work before landing a position as a sports radio announcer for the University of Iowa. Initially paid $10 per game, his enormous talent was evident, and he quickly ascended the ranks to more prestigious and higher-paying jobs in radio. Still in his 20s, Reagan became famous throughout the Midwest for engaging, natural delivery over the radio. He was highly adept at conjuring vivid images for his listeners, a quality that distinguished him during his presidency and later earned him the nickname the Great Communicator. His radio broadcast career at WHO in Des Moines gave the young announcer the opportunity to deliver play-by-play broadcasts of the Chicago Cubs baseball games based solely on telegraph accounts of games in progress. To reward the young Reagan, the owners of the Chicago Cubs sent him to Catalina Island off the coast of California to observe spring practice. While there, a screen test was arranged in Hollywood, and within weeks the former radio man had traded in his microphone for a contract with Warner Brothers. Film and television career. Yes, he was an actor. There are no limits to growth and human progress when men and women are free to follow their dreams. Second inaugural address, 1985. During this period of his life, Ronald Reagan honed many of his talents critical to his future success. He evolved from a likable presence on the radio and in films to a leader who could inspire and persuade others to follow him as he championed a range of causes. After his success in radio, Ronald Reagan was ready for the next chapter. Before the next 2 days were over, he would become a star on the silver screen, enlist in the Army, meet the love of his life, and become a TV spokesman and corporate ambassador. As union leader, Reagan became someone who could pull together people of various interests and agendas to reach agreements, and an invaluable skill for a political leader. Whether uniting his co-workers or encouraging people to think about political values, Ronald Reagan was constantly fine-tuning his abilities that ultimately took him to the pinnacle of American politics. I'm going to pause right here. Hi guys, okay, that completes the first segment of the Ronald Reagan series. Next up will be Hollywood career and becoming a political activist. Thanks for listening along, and you guys take care.